Hello and welcome into episode 28 of the Orlando Drummer Podcast. Sorry we took a couple weeks off there. Had, what did I do? Went to, oh, you're getting a phone call, huh?
Yeah, I'm getting it. Hold on, sorry. No, I'll take this.
Vintage phone. That wall's coming together, huh?
That's cool.
Yeah? Getting busy. No, I took a quick trip up to North Carolina. My mom lives up there, has like 40 acres, big old cool spot in North Carolina. And I needed a lawnmower, and she had a riding lawnmower for me. So that was my domestic road trip up in the country. But back now, we're in drum mode. And how are you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. Yeah, I love being in drum mode.
Drum mode, back in it.
Weird. I have not sat down at a kit in almost a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Long time,
it's been
man.
pretty crazy. I think this point last year I was moving.
Yeah.
And so it was just packed away.
Yeah.
And then by the time I moved to where I live now, I just couldn't set it up.
Yeah.
You know, so I haven't done that. It's been a year. Kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Gotta be honest.
Long time to not play. I'm trying to think of the longest actual time I've gone and not played. Definitely like 2 to 3 months before. But have you ever noticed this before where for some reason, like you play really well when you take a long time off? Does that happen to you?
I think it's... Well, I wouldn't know because, again, it's been a while. Maybe if I played again, I would. Yeah, it's been a little too long. So I might be rusty. But I think where you're coming from is you sit back down to focus and really work on something after taking such a long break because your mind has had a long time to just like sort things out. You don't get as distracted when you sit down because you're like, oh, I finally get to do this. Like I want to make the time really worth it.
Well, I don't know. For me, it's probably a different experience for everybody. But for me, it feels like all of the information, all the drum data that like bounces around my brain, like settles, right? And so it's like there's like a clarity to my playing, if that makes sense. Like my brain isn't busy with drum nonsense all the time. It's like kind of wiped clean a little. I don't know.
Or maybe it's just your brain thinking that you're better because
you haven't heard yourself play in a while.
That, or you're just
impressed.
like, oh man, it's been 3 months. I must be absolute crap. Like, but you actually are good. So,
Yeah,
you
maybe.
probably don't lose that skill for a while. But,
yeah. See, I remember this happened. I used to get really upset when I was a young kid, like 12, 13, when I couldn't take my skateboard places. This was like a battle I had with my mom for like several years. If I can't bring my board and skate, then like I'm mad that I have to go. And I remember we went on a cruise. And she was like, no, you cannot bring it. You can't bring a skateboard on a cruise ship. Like, that's not going to happen. I was probably 13 or 14, just devastated that I couldn't skate for like a week, right? That was just unbelievable. Yeah. But then I came home and I skated and I was like, good. Like, I felt like it was actually like, I don't know, like I got better in the time that I took off. And I noticed the same thing with drums sometimes happens, but not a year. Probably doesn't apply.
We'll see. I mean, it would have been, it sucks to have this thought now. If we knew this a year ago, it would have been a really good experiment to be like, how does your playing, change after a year of not playing? And then record, certain things and pick apart certain things that you miss. And,
sure.
But I could go another year and we could try.
Yeah. So here's another weird one. I've had this thought before. If you really wanted to like run the experiment on yourself, like what happens if you switch genres? Like exclusively for like a year, but like a whole year. Like if I said I'm doing death metal and absolutely nothing else for an entire year, like what kind of like dent does that put in your playing? It would be significant.
A huge dent.
Huge, right?
Because then your focus is just somewhere different. You're in another universe.
Yeah.
Right? Same if you switched instruments, right? If you went from drums to guitar to drums to flute to piano, whatever. Your mind would be thinking about different things in a different way. And then upon returning to your original base, you'd have a different perspective, I think.
Definitely would. Yeah, I couldn't help it.
And a larger appreciation, which is probably why you think you're better after not playing for a while. Who knows?
Who knows? All right. Well, what we got in the way of loops this week?
Well, if you haven't played for a year and you want to practice for the drums, you can practice to some loops that we have.
Oh, yeah.
So every week we typically pick a loop of the week. And this week I have from the Chill Hop volume of loops, V1. Let me start that over. From version 1 of the Chill Hop loops, loop 4.
Loop 4 from Chill Hop V1.
Chill Hop.
That loop pack, man, it was one of the few that we did where me and Joe both loved it so much. We were like, we're doing this again. So we did V2 like right after, and then V3. Maybe that would be a good one to toss in the mix, like a V4. We've never gone to the V4 territory for any of the loop packs. We did Trap. There's 3 of them. What else? Trap, Chill Hop. I think it's the only ones we did 3 of because people liked them so much. But anyway, stop talking. Let you guys hear it. Here is Chill Hop V1 Loop 4. I think they're awesome. They're super, super fun tracks. There's 15 of those in total, the Chill Hop tracks, but they're most similar to that is like Neo Soul Volume 1 and 2. Those are also really similar, but really, really fun, like groove oriented, just weird chord progressions and cool instrumentation on a lot of stuff. They're fun. Remember, you don't have to ever purchase any of the loop packs. You can stream all of them with a membership to OrlandoDrummer.com. You can use code ODPC and save 25% on your first 2 months. It's an online drum school, very much in the style of Netflix, and included with the membership is not only the entire loop library. You can stream them offline with offline playback within the apps. You can download them. You don't have to be on Wi-Fi to jam any of the tracks. Also included with the membership is dozens and dozens and dozens of master classes. Really extensive lesson packs. I think we have 27 lesson packs in total. Chops, grooves, fills, rudiments, behind the scenes stuff, audio, video, you name it. I promise we have something that you will like. Again, promo code is in the description of this podcast or the YouTube video. Check it out. We'd love to have you guys on board. Yeah. And that's our lone sponsor. That's it. We keep it easy.
The only one. The other one I'll throw in there too because my neck and back have been hurting so much.
My pillow.
I was gonna say Yoga for Drummers.
Yoga for Drummers. There you go. Okay.
It's another really great one. Highly underrated, I think. Everybody should watch that and then learn from that, and then do those stretches every morning and every night.
Yeah.
So they're not sore like me.
Absolutely, man. I posted about the Yoga for Drummers class like a couple weeks ago, and there's always, without fail, one person that's just like, damn, like, when's the vegan cookbook coming out, dude? Just like, come on, bro.
What a low-hanging fruit joke.
I know. You can't tell people to stretch without getting made fun of. It's like, all right,
that's the weirdest thing. Like,
yeah.
It's not, all right, whatever.
You step out of the lane like a half step, and there's just somebody there. It's so funny.
This will get cut, but just people.
I just like to think that this guy's back is going to be like totally fucked in like 5 years, and he's going to be like, oh, maybe yoga would help. Like Googling yoga stuff. Like, come on, man.
Never mind, that's gay.
I wouldn't do it if I didn't have to, but.
God.
So funny.
Okay, anyway, we'll move on from the loop of the week. Into a little topic of discussion, but a little bit of spice on these discussions, right? So this piece is called Accent or Ghost. It's where we get your view, sometimes my view, on many aspects of the drumming industry. And at the end, we'll get an approval from you, which is an accent, or a disapproval, which is a ghost. So what do we think about unair-conditioned storage / practice space for your drums?
Ugh.
So like a shed out back.
Yeah.
Right? Or
Miserable.
a garage or like a attic or a basement. Like something.
Yeah. I mean, definitely not good for the instrument. That's for sure. It also, this depends on where you live. And like, you know this being in Florida, like that is not an option in like a 4-month window in like right now.
Yeah.
Like you can't even, I won't even make small talk in like a parking lot in Florida in the summer. It's just like, no, I will not stand here and say things like we have to move and get out of this. It's really that bad. And it's crazy humid. Like if you just took a drum set, didn't even play it, and just put it in like my shed and just left it there, that thing is ruined in 3 months. Like it's destroyed. It's warped. It's got mold inside of it. Right.
Yeah, the humidity will just warp it. Sometimes like termites too. Watch out for those
that
things.
Could happen.
That's
termites on a drum set.
I've known a few people that have gotten termites in their drum sets, and it's just like
no way. That's a real thing. That's crazy.
I think it like on like cheaper woods.
If you left it in a shed, I guess that could happen. You stored it long term.
Yeah, but if you're leaving it in, like the whole thing is gone, right? If termites get into anything that's wood, they're just eating everything. If you have it in bags or cases, maybe they're more protected.
Maybe.
Definitely warped.
I would say if you so destroying the instrument aside, I mean, I would just think, okay, I actually own one of these. They're really cool. You can buy portable air conditioning units. It looks like like a dehumidifier or like one of those little things.
Yeah, I have one of those.
They're awesome. They're
really cool.
Yeah, and it's like maybe $300. So I don't know. I would say if it's between you being totally miserable, like covered in sweat, damaging your instrument, or spending $300 on a little, like a window shaker unit or something like that, that's so worth it. It's the kind of thing when you're young enough, you don't really care, like you'll just be miserable, but like everybody over like 25, you stop wanting to deal with that level of misery. You're like, I'm gonna spend the money and be comfortable because I'm gonna die one day, so let me enjoy this. You know?
If you have the ability to do it, to have them in an air-conditioned space, do it.
Yeah,
for
sure.
When it comes to drums that you have to tune every time or that might get warped or ruined by moisture. I don't think anybody's going to store an electric kit in a shed
That would be a
outdoors.
nightmare. No, you would destroy it so quick.
Either destroyed or just like, if it got wet at all, might ruin the electronics.
Probably.
Stolen is more of like a thought that I would think.
Yeah.
Easier to steal.
Maybe. Well, drum sets are difficult to steal. That's a really big thing to steal.
Sorry.
I think where drum sets get stolen is like at venues when there's like a bunch of people loading different things in cases. That could happen. But like, I've thought of that before. If someone like broke into the studio, like they would take a lot of things before they were like, let's take the drum kit. Like what? Do you have 3 people to get away with this?
Yeah, that's one thing that I think in like the touring world, when you're talking about bands that have their own like trailers or stuff like that, when things get stolen, drums are usually left in there.
Yeah, not worth it.
They're
not worth it.
They're not easy to carry, or like people don't know what they are sometimes.
Sure,
but they're just like, oh, that's a trumpet case, or like,
well,
that's a guitar.
It's the same size, whether it's $300 or $3,000 or $10,000. Right? It's the same size.
Same
you don't
size,
really know.
Same weight, everything like that, and people who want to just like smash and grab aren't really going to do that.
Well, shout out for having the unstealable instrument. That's one for drummers.
Yeah.
Huh? You gotta give us that one.
Yeah, but for anybody with any other instruments that may be listening, buy really high quality locks for things.
Yeah, for sure. Trailer locks.
Yeah. So are we going to get a ghost or an accent for unair-conditioned storage / practice space?
I'm going to ghost that. Go buy the AC unit at Home Depot.
All right.
Drive 5 minutes further to go to the air-conditioned storage unit. I would do that.
The air-conditioned store. Yep.
Yeah. They keep it like 80 in there, but it's not that bad, you know?
Yeah, that's right. Spend money.
Yeah.
All right. What do we think about creating your own rudiments out of a string of rudiments? So like, this is a paradiddle flam, Herta chop.
Good question.
Like, I mean, or when people give them weird names, where they're just like, this is a paraflam.
Cheese-a-diddle flam. Whatever.
This is a fast one.
Okay. So, God, this is like such a wormhole. I'm trying to think of how to say it the right way. So there are some translation problems between certain languages because there are some languages where we have a word for, or okay, let's say it this way. You are wearing a like teal colored men's t-shirt.
Sure.
Right? So that would be like 3 words. Teal men's t-shirt, right? But in certain languages, there can be a word where it's one word, and it actually contains all three of those pieces of information in the word, right?
Yeah.
So like unpacking it can be a little bit tricky. So with this sort of stuff, it's like if you have three rudiments and you string them together and give it a new name, like does that help you? Like are you is it like a shortcut to say the cheesy flamadiddle like over under, or you could just be like it's a 6-stroke roll and a paradiddle diddle with 2 kicks at the end. Right? Like, I don't know that there's like any advantage to like renaming it and calling it something totally new. I don't know why you'd necessarily do that, because the language and the words already pretty much exist.
Yeah.
But this is a weird, like, I have no doubt that all patterns have been played at some point. Let's just say under 16 notes or something, right? Like all of those patterns between all your limbs, they have been played before. But when you look at the list of rudiments, like, is that all of them? Like, there's got to be some variations that we don't recognize as actual rudiments. And why is that? Is it that they don't sound good? Probably they don't sound good.
Well, yeah, or they're in a subdivision so small, like 64th notes.
Well,
that it's like, why
but
even
rudiments
count
don't,
that?
Well, rudiments don't quite come with subdivision, right? You use the subdivision to play them, but you could play 64th notes and use any rudiment, right? I think one thing that's a limiting factor is length. Like, you're not going to have the 29-stroke roll because it's just silly. Like, we get it. You wouldn't keep going. Otherwise, there would be infinite rudiments. You would have the 2 billion stroke roll. Like, there's just no reason to go that. At a certain point, you stop counting.
Yeah, at 5.
Yeah. But then there's, man, I really need like a history lesson in this. There are some things that are recognized patterns that we don't call rudiments. Right? So like right, left, left. That's a really common 5-note grouping. If you combine it with kicks, it's used for all different styles of music. I play it all the time. But that's not a rudiment. Why, like, who made up those rules and how long ago? I'm guessing this was around like 200-something years ago in snare drum territory. But I don't know. Has anyone ever like come up with an alternate group of patterns that'd be like, no, it's like a different way to map out the language? I don't know.
I don't think we're going to get into that territory until we have like third arms.
Yeah, it is. It's all mathematically limited by how many limbs you have. Yeah, there's only so many you could do, and we have definitely played all of them.
Yeah,
it's just like the naming and organizing them part. I don't know who made the executive decision on what is classified as like an official rudiment, what makes a hybrid rudiment. It's just like not on the original list.
Yeah.
That's why it's a hybrid.
It's just like generally accepted. It's not like there's a committee of people that are like approving and disapproving new rudiments to use.
Right? It's so unofficial. Then there's also rudiments with subdivision changes, but if that's allowed, like Hertas, that's considered a hybrid rudiment, I think.
Yeah.
And it's African, so it's like tied to a culture, but so it's got a different history to it. But like if subdivision changes are on the table, then infinitely more rudiments could be created, right? You could come up with tons of them if I'm allowed to change the subdivision. Like that does not apply to all the traditional ones, I don't think. I don't think you're allowed to change subdivision in the middle. But Hertas are 16th notes and 30 seconds combined. I mean, respectively, depends on how you look at it. But that's what I mean. This is a wormhole. I don't know.
Well, how about this? If we're talking about giving it a pass or a fail, an accent or a ghost, we say creating your own rudiments out of a string of rudiments. Kind of like if you're just like, here's a lesson on this thing, and it's just a string of rudiments that maybe has a different name already, or like they think that it's new, but it's not really an original concept. Like, well, how would you gauge that? I mean, it doesn't seem fair to me to just be like, here's a flamacue. Like, this is a lesson that's official that like we should be coined for and everything like that. Not to like throw anybody under the bus or anything, but like, it's like, well, okay.
Well, okay, so
somebody would have figured that out with like a general amount of knowledge after a while.
So I would give it the overall accent, because what you're really doing is just combining patterns, which is a huge part of the exploratory nature of playing drums. Like finding two things that you learned from, let's just say, 2 different YouTube teachers, and then combining them for your own thing. Like, that's a weird 2021 example, but like stuff like that, right? Or a groove that you got from one album combined with a feel that you got from another album with a different drummer. Like that sort of stuff, it it's a really important part of the creative process a lot of times. You do this anyway. Your brain likes melting together different ideas. But doing that intentionally, even if it's just picking 2 rudiments off of a chart and being like, I'm going to mix these together and see what happens, I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah.
It has a high potential for wasting your time because a lot of things do not sound good. Just be like, let me spend 4 hours playing like this rudiment into this rudiment, and you figure out at the end like, oh, that actually isn't that cool, and I don't. But sometimes you can find like gold in those. It just depends on what it is, but it's probably worth your time to have that exploratory practice that way, just combining 2 things. I don't know. I almost look at it as like. If the language analogy holds true, you might not want to give that advice to someone who's like learning to speak English. Like, listen, you should just take a bunch of random words and smash them together and see what happens. Like, no, don't do that. Don't do that. You need a little bit of intention here. But eventually you would want to be like playfully creative in your mind with all the words that you know.
Right.
You would eventually, but you want to have like a little bit of a strategy. That's the way to say it. You should have some version of a strategy when you're doing that. Like, I want to make a cohesive, smooth, maybe an aggressive 16th note fill. How could I do that? So have like a premise first instead of just being like this one and this one and this one, and it's a cheese it. Like, you're not gonna get that lucky, I don't think. But that's a funny one, man. That's cool. I like that. So I'll give it the accent. It's worth your time doing. Just have a little bit of a strategy when you do that.
What do we think? Just a quick one. What if someone made coated heads out of clear heads with white paint? You gonna accent or ghost that?
Coated heads it's clear heads, but they painted them white?
Yeah, they're just like, I want coated heads. Psst, psst.
Oh, and just like spray painted on that. Somebody's done that, right?
Yeah, and they're like, I got coated heads.
I think it would sound like really bad.
Like garbage.
It would see horror. I saw Garbage this week. The band Garbage, actually.
What?
Yeah, the band. It was Alanis Morissette. Went to see Alanis Morissette.
Oh yeah, how was that?
Yeah, it was cool. It was really cool.
All right, we'll get into that.
We'll talk about that later. We'll save that for the end, maybe.
All right, okay.
Yeah, I think the heads would sound horrible spray painted. Somebody's definitely done that though. See, what about this? What if you backed that spray can off the head a bit and gave it the Evans Frosted? Just a little mist.
Oh my god!
Would it actually sound? You might get some kind of muting off of it.
Is David Raouf listening to this podcast?
Does he play the Frosteds?
I don't know.
Oh no, he would do that.
He did a thing where he removed the coat from a coated head to make it into a clear head. Like he did like uses for old heads or whatever.
Okay, gotcha.
Interesting video you did. Shout out David.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wonder if he's done the opposite. I don't know. It'd be cool to have David on just to talk to him about
that would be a cool one to have
stuff.
Have him Skype in. That would be really cool.
Skype
or Zoom, whatever you're using. I don't know.
In 20.
Skype's Skype out now. Skype's out.
It's
I feel like I've said it a couple times recently. People are like, "You use Skype," and like, "Oh."
Well, it's so funny because like. I don't mean to like hark back to like earlier last year, but like earlier last year, Zoom, like their stock price and everything kind of rose, and people were downloading it and using it for everything. And then Skype was like, "What the fuck?
We've been doing this. We've been doing this.
We were on
Oprah. Yeah,
so crazy. Anyway, so what do we think? Accent or ghost? Are you making coated heads out of clear heads with white paint? Just spray paint?
No, I'm going to ghost that. There are better projects. Go to Home Depot and pick something out. You find something better to work on than that.
The stucco. And the last one on accent or ghost, and we have several topics on this one.
No, you're good.
Logic or GarageBand's programmed drummer. You know what this is?
No, tell me about that.
So basically, in Logic or GarageBand, you can, if you have, you're doing everything digitally, writing the music, maybe you have like a small MIDI controller. It's like, I really like this chord, this melody. I don't know. I really want a drummer, but I have no idea what kind of beat I want. But I know that I want something like Afro-Cuban. And you can literally on GarageBand or Logic just be like, add a drummer, Afro-Cuban, and you can change like the amount of fills that they play, like where the instruments are localized, like what instruments you don't want them to play for a certain section. So it will engineer beats for you that sound like an actual drummer playing.
Gosh,
based on how the software is written.
So I like that. I like it for GarageBand because I think 90+% of people that use GarageBand are tinkering around writing scratch tracks. Like, it's fun. It's fun. It's it's explorative learning is what GarageBand for the most part is. If you're really doing this for a living, you're using Logic, and I wouldn't be surprised if that feature got stripped from Logic one day. Like, I don't think that many people are really using something that would like write drum parts for you basically in Logic. I don't think that would, it's not necessary. It's not that necessary. In GarageBand though, I think it's cool. I think it would help somebody who had no knowledge of drums to like maybe start tinkering with drums a little bit, not in some, advanced or technical way, but like having a little bit of control over like how a groove sounds or things like that. Yeah, I think given that it's GarageBand and like the user base of that particular software program, yeah, I think it's fine. That doesn't bother me at all. Like, what do you want to do? You want to take it away and just be like, no, everyone has to learn how to play drum. Like, some people don't care, dude.
Yeah.
Like, some people just want to press a button and have an Afro-Cuban groove,
Yeah, I would think it would be good for demoing, or if you're an artist who doesn't play drums or wants to play something else within a group of people. Yeah. You can say, here's the concept. It's very, malleable, and you can do whatever you want with it. I'm going to hand it over to professional musicians, bassists, guitarists, pianists, drummers. You do what you want, but here's the bass. Yeah. Right? And I want you to do what you can, but don't go crazy and change this up completely.
Sure.
I think it'd be good for that. So, accent or ghost?
Hell yeah. I'll give it the accent. Totally fine. Okay. Totally fine.
Cool. All right, well, that'll do it for accent or ghost. Up next, we have nice little segment. We talk about our favorite drummers in a fun way. You ever play that one game that's 3 words where you choose 3 people and you do 3 different things with them? I can't say it on the podcast, but you know what I'm talking about. Well, anyway, we adapted it. We called it Swap, Study, Shed. Yeah. For this piece, I give Adam 3 drummers. He has to choose which one he would swap gigs with, take a lesson from, or study from, or hang out and shed with. And swap, study, shed. Yeah. So my first trio here, and I have some photos in the shared album there.
All right, who's the first 3 we got here?
So the first trio that I have here is Elon Rubin of 9 Inch Nails, Josh Dunn of 21 Pilots, and Aaron Spears. I don't have to say what he's done. But right now he's, the drummer for Ariana Grande.
Yeah. The problem is all 3 of these guys have sick gigs. Yeah. Right? like arena level, like massive, and fun kind of in like unique ways. I think I would have to swap with Aaron Spears though.
You're not going to study from Aaron Spears? He has to have some like secret,
okay. It's weird because he's the kind of player where what he plays, like, this is such a Benny way to say it, but like the what that he plays is not actually the craziest part. It's like, it's how he plays, right? It's that it's so powerful. It's so clean.
That is true.
It's got like such a deep pocket, like a weird, like human touch to it that's very hard to replicate. Like, it makes him a super unique player. But if you were to Google, like, I don't know, Aaron Spears chops broken down, like it's relative. I don't want to say it's normal. He's not a normal player, but like, it's not that he plays insanely technically advanced kind of things. And I would worry that a lesson with him that he could show you exactly what he's doing. You're like, oh, I could do that. It just doesn't sound anything like when you play it, though. Yeah. And it won't. That's what makes him so sick. But I just want to play with Ariana. She's such a shredder, dude. She's like she does not belong in a normal like pop singer category at all. She's not even close to like just your. I don't want to like throw anybody under the bus, but if you were to take like a Taylor Swift or I don't know, name your just fill in the blank like pop singer songwriter.
Yeah, I'm Katy Perry.
Yeah. I mean, both of them very, very talented singers. Like certainly way above average for sure. Have some awesome songs. But Ariana is like the Garska of that world. Just like you don't stand a chance against that one. Like it's not even close, That is a pro among pros.
That is so funny to me. That I don't know. I just think the Garska
of female pop singers. Yeah. She's just like put him against anyone. It's probably not close. Yeah. She's freakishly talented, man.
Insane.
Yeah. So I want to play with her. Play with her. Then let's see. Study with. I think I'd have to go Elon Rubin. He's such a he always strikes me, his playing, his decisions, like on his albums and stuff, they always strike me as like very well thought out and professional. So I think a lesson with that guy would probably be concept heavy and be like more of like a career impact sort of thing. I wouldn't want to ask that guy for patterns necessarily, but I would want to know, like, how do you think about writing music? How do you think about approaching this gig or this gig over the years? That would be really, really cool insight from a guy like him.
Yeah.
So that's swap, study, shed. Yeah, be fun to shed with Josh Dunn. That'd be interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know too much about him personally, other than I've known that he's the drummer for 21 Pilots.
Yeah. He shreds pretty hard. I think that would be a really fun.
Yeah.
But I feel like the level of technicality isn't so high that
more showmanship.
It would be fun to play with him.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
You wouldn't get like overshadowed by his skill necessarily.
Well, he's a performer, right? I imagine like quite a showman, and you're right. That would actually be really fun. So that's probably the right choice. That would be mine on those.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
His like big thing for a while was like it was him. I think it was like kick, snare, hat, and then maybe a crash on like a wooden platform in the audience that he would like do a solo.
Mute Math did something like that, right?
Darren did.
They used to pass things around the audience, they like surfing on like,
I don't think the one Mute Math concert that I went to, life changing, because they're great, and Darren King's a god among men. But he did a cool thing. I might have said this before. Okay. He gave like 4 audience members like gloves.
Oh,
and they were basically like MIDI controllers.
Yeah.
And then he either looped it or like played something on their hands. It was awesome.
Yeah.
And then Paul Meany has like, I don't know, some weird fucking instrument that he was just like, here, fucking take it. Like, and threw it out in the audience. Yeah. That was cool. I don't know. But that showmanship level type thing would be great to shed with.
Yeah, that would be really cool. Really cool. Also interesting to pick the brain of a drummer who's in that world, right? Where your aesthetics when you're playing are very, very important. Like the technicality of 21 Pilots is probably not a priority, but like how we look on stage, like the atmosphere you create in those mega shows is very important. For
how do you engage a crowd having that simple of a set on just, in front of that, but for 2 people on stage?
Yeah, and I imagine they would play, hour and a half, 2-hour sets, right? Yeah, a lot of stuff to think about.
Yeah.
That's a good one. All right, who else we got?
All right, so the second trio that we have is kind of I don't know how I thought of this trio. Thomas Lang.
Okay.
So the Drumless. Taylor Gordon, a.k.a. the Pocket Queen.
Okay.
Sure you know who that is.
Yeah.
And then Jonathan Moffitt, who was Michael Jackson's drummer.
So, okay, I actually had a chance to sit down and interview Jonathan Moffitt.
No way!
For Earthworks, actually, at NAMM. The video is definitely online somewhere. It was Jonathan Moffitt and Aaron Spears, back to back. Very weird. But yeah, it was for Earthworks, and then Kaz Rodriguez. That was the other one. Yeah. All Earthworks artists. And so we just sat at the microphone booth at NAMM and talked to these guys for a while. It was really cool. He is super, super cool, Jonathan Moffitt. Very, very friendly guy. Will tell you any story about, I don't know, Michael Jackson or whoever. He'll tell you all the stories, right? So it's definitely fun talking with him. What a stud in that picture too, man. Got the chest hair and the vest and everything.
So cool.
I love that they like overlaid the DW kit just like over his body.
Yeah. It's like he's standing over like a giant.
Such a bold ad.
Again.
What year do you think this is? 80s or late 70s?
I want to say 90s, give that credit. I don't know. We've had a couple photos. Yeah. Like I think we've shown a few of these on the podcast, and it's just like we need to recreate something.
These are so fun.
These 90s, 80s magazine shoot pictures would be phenomenal.
They're so funny.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna go. This is a tricky one. Okay, and then we have Taylor Gordon, who's heavy, just pocket player. Yeah. Right. I mean that I don't want to say sums up her playing, but certainly that's accurate.
It's her title.
Yeah, well, you're right. She did give herself. She put pocket in her name.
Pocket
so,
queen.
Yeah. All right.
And then
you have Lang, who's got a baseball bat in this photo for some reason.
Yeah, I was trying to find the funniest photo of him. That was what it was. He smashes for sure.
With Getty images right across the front. Perfect.
Sorry, I couldn't find the royalty-free one.
Hey, shout out Getty, whatever.
No.
Okay, so I think I have to study with Thomas Lang, just a wealth of knowledge without a doubt. You could study under that guy for 20 years and he would still have things to teach you. So definitely would study with Thomas Lang. Let's see.
I have to think. He's been featured on Swap Study Shed before.
Has he? Okay.
With two different drummers. So to be fair, the choices might have been different there.
Yeah, I've always picked him for study though. How
I think
seems
you did.
dumb not to.
Yeah.
I think I would do the Jonathan Moffitt. Do I get to swap with any gig that he ever had?
You get to go back in time.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a given.
Yeah, we get to bend reality for you.
Yeah.
And you get to go back in time and gig in the 80s.
Yeah, we're doing MJ. We're playing Thriller on stage.
You're doing a bunch of narcotics.
Yeah. For sure.
To get through the tour.
Absolutely.
And then...
Yeah, you're not allowed to remember it.
Yeah.
That's the deal.
It's funny that you say he told stories, but I'm only speculating on the narcotics.
And then obviously I would hang out with Taylor. That would be the hang for sure. And I imagine she's a cool hang. There is definitely... This is a weird... I don't know how to best say this, but like... People with deep pocket and feel, like those kinds of drummers, tend to be really cool.
Yeah.
Right? Because I don't know, maybe this is like a really oversimplified way to say it, but like you can't have no personality and not be intelligent and be like a dull person, but you have super dope feel on the drums. Like that never seems to be the case. You're at least an interesting person. I kind of find that to be, you have some kind of character in there because that's what I hear when you play drums. So I don't know, I find that those people are generally cooler than they are not. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of like weird pocket players that I know, and they've always got like a vibe on them of some kind because it's a weird way to play drums, you know.
Who's Questlove? Extremely deep pocket.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
He's super cool. Right.
You know what comes to mind? What's his name? One Up Drum Vids, Carson. What's Carson's last name? One Up Drum Vids is the name of it. His name is Carson. We hung out at NAMM one time. Dude, that guy has not only insane pocket, but he's such a character. He was a really, really fun hang. Shout out Carson if you're listening, buddy. That's one weird example that came to mind where like the character and the pocket are somehow kind of tied together. But did you find Carson?
I'm looking.
I'm sorry, I haven't been making...
Nope, sorry. He's wearing a shirt that says Zatarans. Like the fucking rice brand.
He's a wild dude.
His name is Carson. He's from One Up Drum Vids. But yeah, shout out him. He's already making me laugh.
Yeah, he's a funny dude. Definitely worth scrolling through his Instagram. He's a character. But anyway, all right. That's it for Swap Study Shed. That was a good one.
Yeah,
those were good choices.
That was fun. You get to travel back in time today.
Oh yeah,
that was fun. All right, cool. So I like alliteration a lot. Right, right, and one of my favorites that we've done since the beginning, since episode 1 of the podcast, was Sleeper Spotlight.
Oh yeah,
where we feature a drummer that y'all are sleeping on. We get Adam's opinions, impressions, and constructive criticism, if any. So first off, I want to start out with Rick Dior. He does not have an Instagram, but he has a YouTube channel.
Okay.
He has about 15,000 subscribers. I gave him a pass on this one.
On YouTube,
because I feel like he should have more. Now, the reason that I wanted to feature him on the podcast today was we don't get too much into jazz because, as we know, you hate it, you'll never study it,
jazz
and you're not good at it.
Yeah.
But Rick is really good at it, loves it, and has a passion for teaching.
Okay.
Right? He is a curation of everything jazz. He has the skills to showcase his well-learned knowledge of the genre. And so here, for everybody to enjoy on Sleeper Spotlight, I have a video of him playing on a weird little drum set.
Okay.
These are his skills. Rick is fucking awesome.
All right, Rick. Let's see what you got. definitely a really seasoned player. He got some like tasty licks in there for sure.
He's seasoned like Zataran's rice, man.
Yeah, man. He's definitely I don't know, a lot of like traditional licks, but played super clean. They just hit perfectly.
If you're interested, Rick's got a bunch of jazz solos that he's played. And then he'll play the whole solo, give you like 2 camera angles, and then he'll break it down.
Cool.
And go through all the different concepts. And of course, like, they're not as impressive as modern day drum solos or anything like that. But he plays them like the notated everything.
Wow.
It's from a book.
One of those,
and can probably play it if you mention it.
Yeah.
So incredibly talented, smart, knowledgeable, and a good teacher at that.
Sure.
And it's very evident in his playing.
Yeah,
So,
it was definitely like veteran vibes for sure. It was awesome.
Yeah.
I can't decide how I feel about this kit because it's first of all it's by Peavey. So yeah, I mean, that didn't last. Whatever they were doing back then. What is the kit from? Like 80s? That seems
I would
very
imagine
80s.
it's a PV Radial 1000 kit.
Wow.
It's not the primary kit that he plays.
I would assume not.
Yeah, he plays
it's a weird looking kit.
He plays something else, much more like jazz centered kit. Plays quite a few different cymbals as well.
Sure.
Sometimes with like sizzles, sometimes big stuff, sometimes small stuff. Depending on what he's playing.
Yeah. I can't decide if I like the sound of this drum. It's weird. It's like dry and boingy.
But room sound,
but like,
too.
Yeah, it has, you're right, it wasn't close mic'd, yeah. But I don't know, it had like an interesting sound, but I couldn't decide if it was like cheap or high quality, but definitely an interesting kit sound.
I'm tuned very well.
Yeah, tuned well.
That range.
Good melodies, yeah. Cool. So. Well, shout out Rick, dude. That was awesome. I want to check out some more of his vids because anybody that's just like, let me do a quick demo for you, and then just like
shreds,
absolutely shreds. I'm like, oh, okay, that was like a throwaway take, probably.
Yeah.
You know, not like he's rehearsing to do the drum set demo.
Right.
But when you see somebody that's that talented, like total improvisation, it makes you want to watch some more, you know?
Yeah. When it came across, I like saying this, when it came across my desk, I was like, oh, PV made a drum set. And I was like, all right, whatever. And then skip through the video.
Yeah.
And typically, whenever you watch these like weird gear reviews or whatever, it's just like somebody playing, but you're like, I'd like to hear more of what this kit actually has to offer.
Sure.
I never had that thought with his playing that video that we just watched.
Yeah.
I watched, like, oh my God, I can get a sense of what this sounds like and everything. This is perfect.
Yeah.
This is what drummers are looking for when they're talking about like gear reviews.
Yeah.
Or demos.
Yeah.
So yeah, very satisfying to watch that for sure.
That's awesome.
But on the other spectrum of things, it sucks when you're just like, I'd really like to know what this kit sounds like. And there's a YouTube channel of a drum shop or something, and they're just like, here it is. And it's like 30 seconds of really, really basic playing, like nothing complicated, or not even showcasing the whole kit. It's like, all right.
Yeah, sometimes people do that. You'll always stumble across that random video of someone that plays it for like 4 seconds and talks for 20 minutes.
Oh my God.
It happens, yeah.
Glad you got ad revenue from that video for going over the 10-minute mark. Anyway... that'll move us onto our next sleeper, Slater Drums _
Slater _ Drums?
Yep, he's a session musician from Britain.
Okay.
With like not even 1,000 followers. Actually, he had 799. I was number 800.
There you go.
Of his followers.
800.
So yeah, here's Slater Drums with a couple of videos.
All right, number 1, Slater Drums. Definitely a cool style. Almost like I don't want to say old school, but like playing rudiment-based ride grooves with like the bell and the kick matching together. Like something about that is kind of an old school thing to do.
Yeah.
But that in a much more like modern, I don't know, aggressive, angsty, distorted guitars, yelling vocal. Like again, when that style, definitely a cool little mix in there for sure. He also had some challenging or like I guess just tricky cymbal accents, like in weird spots coming off of little snare fills. Definitely a few like interesting moments in there. Short clip though, it's a short one.
Yeah, a couple of it. They're not too long, which I like. You know, when people keep them short on Instagram at least.
Yeah, I'm with
like,
you. It
all
doesn't
right,
matter.
I need a bit, and this is what you know. I know people do like shorts on YouTube and stuff, but
Yeah.
I go to YouTube for long form. I go to Instagram for short form for the most part. And that's nice when I'm scrolling through somebody's profile and I go, I know what you're doing here because I can see you've summed up your body of work in a very short manner. So it's also,
it's weird when, I don't know, TikTok has like poisoned everything. It's just, it's like everything is so short, so fast. But like, I don't like how YouTube now has YouTube Shorts, and then Instagram was like, did you want to post a 30-minute video? Like, no, I'm on Instagram. Like, why would I want to put a 30-minute video? And then YouTube, it's like, did you want to post a story? Like, no, I'm on YouTube. Like, they're both like borrowing from each other. Like, I don't know. I wish they would stay separate because I think to me that's why they're so valuable. Like, there's a value in the short content, and that's where I go to Instagram. Why I go to Instagram, and I don't know. I'm getting old, man. I'm finding like more and more stuff where I'm like, I hate that because it's different. Like, you find yourself doing that a lot more when you get older.
That's what getting old is.
That's what it is. You're just like, I hate a lot of things now. Things are different. I don't like that.
New stuff. Oh man.
Give me the old stuff. Yeah.
Well, and then you'll get to a point too where you're so old that you want new stuff.
Yeah.
You might turn around, you know?
You can afford new stuff when you get older. That happens.
Yeah, that's also very true. But anyway, there's another video from, Ellis.
Ellis is his name. Okay.
Yes.
Slater Drums, clip 2. Definitely a heavy player. I like that. You could hear the tone of those drums really woken up.
Yeah.
We've talked about this before, but there is a big difference in how drums sound based off of the dynamic level that you're playing. Like sometimes certain kits and certain genres too, like man, they just hit so much harder when you actually really lay into them. So I don't know. I liked that he was like really powerfully like playing deep into those for sure. Clean Hurtas, like fast around the kit for sure. I definitely heard a couple of the phrase I used to use with students was like, I would call it physical guessing, where it's like there was a couple tiny, very, very small, I'm being really nitpicky here, but there was like a couple moments where it was like I could hear the slight gap in, or like the lapse in thought, where it was like a couple of like, kind of like, I don't want to say muddy notes, but like they weren't completely intentional, right? And it was surrounded by very intentional playing. So that might actually make it easier to discern those little moments of like, I wasn't sure what the pattern was. And then you kind of go back in. So like I heard that a couple times in there. Sometimes that is a matter of like fixing that problem, I guess you could call it. Slowing down by like 5 BPM gives you just enough time to think that the notes can land with more clarity, instead of coming out with this like this slightly little muddled sound. And again, I use the word muddled like very loosely here because your playing is not muddled. I definitely don't mean that at all. But again, I'm being extremely picky because I'm looking for like one piece of criticism that I could possibly offer. But dude, overall, very, very clean. I love how powerful you play, and a lot of really cool ideas too, like creative, exploratory playing, which is always my favorite kind of drummer to watch. Like when I get to hear your voice, not necessarily drum parts that someone else wrote or something that you have, you know, let's just say learned already, right? You're executing something that you've already rehearsed. To me, that's always less interesting. This kind of playing is the most interesting to me because I get to hear the free flow of your thoughts, just fresh out the brain down into the hands. That's what I like. So awesome playing, man. It was really cool. Go check him out, guys. Can't believe he's got under 1,000 followers. Is not enough. Yeah.
Up. 10K. So shout out Rick Dior and I believe it's Ellis Slater.
Ellis Slater. That's a cool name.
I like
very
the name
memorable
Ellis.
name.
Ellis, like Ellis Island. But anyway, shout out our sleepers. If you have recommendations for sleepers for the podcast, please, you can recommend them in any fashion. Comment down below on YouTube, go to the forums of orlandodrummer.com, or shoot me an email directly at chris@orlandodrummer.com. And speaking of all those ways of correspondence, if you have any questions for the podcast, which is our next segment, Q&A, you can send them to all those different channels. Anyway, we will move on to Q&A. So So these questions come from Instagram, YouTube, or the forums of OrlandoDrummer.com, or straight to me at chris@OrlandoDrummer.com, as I said before. First question from Mark W. is, I've always found that at the end of my practice sessions, I tend to get distracted and just play whatever comes to mind. How does one keep themselves focused on one or two skills when practicing for 30 minutes, an hour, 4 hours?
Okay, so first thing I would recommend checking out, I don't know, is he a member or is this just an email?
That was an email.
Okay,
Mark, yeah.
So if you're not a member, I would highly recommend go start a free 7-day trial on OrlandoDrummer.com. You don't have to pay anything. And
cancel within 7 days.
You can cancel. I don't recommend that you cancel, but you can.
We recommend you buy it, but in the event that you have like some sort of like, you want to try this.
Sure.
There are ways to do it.
But either way, in that 7-day window, you should go watch the Practicing 101 Masterclass, because that inside of there, it contains a much better answer than I'm going to be able to give you in the next couple minutes. But effectively, you need to have like a strategy going in, right? Like the leaving like what's that old weird traditional phrase? The idle hands devil's playground. That sort of thing. Like when you don't have anything to do, you will do oftentimes the wrong thing. Like it's something along those lines. And this definitely happens in practice for sure, because the word practice is too vague, way too vague. If you said, I'm going to go practice, a lot of times that gets dumbed down to proximity to drum set, right? Like that you were around the drums, you kind of played the drums, you did some drum things. But if you actually like added up everything that you did in that window of practice, well, some of it was tuning, and some of it was sending a text message, and some of it was jamming a song, and then you lost 5 minutes to warming up, and then you had, oh, you remember that one lick that I saw? Let me try that for a minute. Like, and it ends up being this weird, like, amorphous blob of drum things, and you just call it practice. This happens to everybody in absence of a plan. So what is the plan? That's what I cover in the Practicing 101 Masterclass. And it's effectively like it's a structure of like, for 5 minutes, do this thing. Then for another 5 minutes, do this thing. For another 5 minutes, do this thing. And I explain how you should schedule your breaks, like how long should you practice a thing before you actually walk away from that. Now, the reason I can't give you any specifics in an example like this is because it's going to change depending on what you're practicing. Working on a song, well, that's one type of structured practice setup. And if you were working on Rudiments or like a book, those are definitely different strategies for that. But my general answer here is that you have to have some kind of strategy when you walk into the practice room, or else, what I described, like everything kind of blurs together. That will happen every single time. It's just what ends up happening. I'm trying to think of another analogy for like where this could happen, but like, I don't know. Let's try cars. Like if you said, I'm gonna go like work on my car, well, like, you might find a couple things to do. You're gonna clean up a little bit of this, and maybe you wash the tires a little bit, and then maybe you get around to changing the oil. But that's not the same as saying, I want to do this specific thing to my car. I want to change the brakes, right? It's like tinkering around is not the same as having like a really specified goal. And this happens with practice a lot. Don't leave it as just practice. Practice what? What exactly do you hope to achieve in this practice session? You want to play this groove at 65 BPM by this date. That is a good goal, and you'll know if you don't hit it, right? So yeah, that makes sense?
Yeah, concrete goals, for sure.
Yeah. Articulated goals. You have to say exactly what you want out of this window, right? Say
it out loud, too. Mm-hmm. I remember a while ago, I don't remember the exact like date or whatever, Forrest Rice came in town with his band. I was fortunate enough to get a small lesson from him when he was in town. And I said, how did you get so good? Let's just, throw that question. He's like, well, for an entire year, I practiced for 8 hours a day.
Yeah, I believe that with him, yeah.
What, 8 hours? What did you do? So I woke up, and I had breakfast, and I sat down, and I played, with my hands to a click.
Sure.
And then for an hour, and then for another hour, it was, I don't know, paradiddles.
Yeah. Now, we should also clarify, at his skill level, practice does look different. Like, I don't think he meant that he was sitting down with a drum book, like studying.
Yeah. He was applying methods he had known and learned to the kit. Absolutely. There was probably some periods of like more intense studying before, but I would believe that guy can sit down and just play for 8 hours. Yeah. At a certain point, it does turn into that where like
like practice can look that way, but I think in your first several years of playing, it shouldn't really look that way because you'll waste so much time just like goofing around when like, you know, I don't know, if you can't keep left foot quarter notes, like you have to work on that. Like that's not fun, but like you do have to go through some of those like fundamental, like they feel like bullshit, but they're not, you know, like some of those little windows, like, no, you got to work on that one. I know it sucks, you know, independence is like that a lot of times, not fun, but vital, you know?
Yeah.
All that's a good question.
All that, like, it seems like bullshit really isn't.
Yeah,
Stuff,
there's a lot of stuff like that. Yeah,
it's like going to the gym. First 2 weeks are hard. It's kind of bullshit. Feels like it, and then week 3, you're like, oh shit! Like I can do more now, and I can apply more.
Sure,
and I can feel muscle groups and.
Yeah, except in drums that takes like 10 years. It's
a
lot slower.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe not 2 weeks, but
maybe not 2 weeks.
All right, I guess maybe the analogy still holds. Next question from Sean L. He asks, during performances, I always get some sort of cut, scrape, bruise, or soreness from my playing. How do you keep yourself from injuring your body while playing?
I would imagine, he said during shows?
He said during performances. I would imagine maybe like rehearsals too could probably cause them, but performances, you have a lot of energy and being like a showman.
I was going to say, it's probably like an adrenaline dump sort of thing, something like that, which... It's weird, man. Like, you don't want to tell anybody, like, calm down. Like, it's probably the reason you do this is the feeling that you have on stage, like what that feels like. That's probably why you're doing this in the first place. So I wouldn't want to tell anyone to lower the intensity, but there's got to be some balance that you can strike where you're not, like, actually getting injured. So one thing you could do that would be really smart to prevent injury in general is just warm up, like dedicate a little bit more time to warming up, because athletes would have to deal with this for sure. Like if you don't do anything to warm up and then you get in the zone where you're doing your athletic performance, whether it's on a football field or in a gym somewhere, whatever you're doing, you know, you're gonna have all of that adrenaline sort of kick in and you're gonna go really, really hard. And before that happens, you want to make sure that your body's like ready to keep up, because your mind's going to get to this certain place where it's ready to go. And your body might be like, hey, dude, like we were just sitting on the couch like 20 minutes ago and this is really hard. So, yeah, I would think warming up would be a huge, huge part of that. And then I would also want to know, like, maybe take inventory of what these injuries are, because if you're doing the same weird thing that gets you injured over and over, like let's just make something up and say it's a strained wrist, like that could be the angle of your snare drum. It could be maybe an injury that you actually need to go see a doctor for, do some sort of rehabilitation exercises. Like it depends on what the injury is. If you're getting randomly injured, like it's like a different part of your body every time that you play a show, that is more than likely just like you got to calm down a little bit. Got to calm down a little. But if it's the same injury over and over, that you could probably develop a strategy for. But I think the best preventative thing you could do would be just warm up, man. Make sure you're warmed up all the time. Really, really important.
Yeah. You know, one thing I've always been afraid of doing was like choking a cymbal too hard, it cracking, and you just slicing your hand open.
That has probably happened to someone.
It's definitely happened to somebody.
Just like, I mean, like full, like you need stitches right away.
Yeah.
Like, palm is wide open.
Yeah. If you think of just like, it's just an alloy saw, basically, is what a cymbal is. You know, just cutting into your hand, the most vital part of your playing. I've always had that fear.
No good. That would suck.
I do have another question.
Okay.
It's a little bit of a weird one. Right. It's from Leslie J. And they ask, is it possible to be an expert on the drums if you've never picked up a pair of sticks and played?
An expert on the drums is the wrong way to say it. You could have expert level knowledge of the study of rhythm. Yes, without ever having played anything, for sure. The phrase I use in, what class was this in? 4 Phases of Drumming. It was called My Philosophy on Becoming a Great Drummer. In there, I talk about this little phenomenon that happens at a certain point in everyone's like progression as a drummer, where you become what I call like top heavy, and it means that you mentally conceptualize things beyond what you're able to play. And this happens after a while, where like I could write out a groove right now that I completely understand mathematically, conceptually. I know what every note is. I understand what these notes are, but that does not mean that I can sit down and play it right away. That is a separate thing altogether, to like teach this down to my body, right? So it's like you're top heavy, like you know more than you're able to play. And if you just started that way and said, I want to study rhythm, like give me a pen and paper with a drum teacher and sit down and just learn how to, like, let's say, read and count rhythm, you could become like a world-class expert on that, but have never actually played anything. Now, at some point you are going to have to use your body to express the rhythm. You could also use your voice, but you're going to run into some things where you have to snap, clap, count with your voice. Like, you're going to have to do something like that, but you could become an expert on the study of rhythm without ever playing the drums. That is totally possible. That would be weird, because I don't know what you do with that skill set if you can't bring it through. Like, if you have no voice, like no instrument to express it, like, I'm not sure why you would want to do that unless you were just like a math nerd. If you were just fascinated by the mathematics and you wanted to study it, you could absolutely become an expert and have no ability to play. Those would be two separate skills, totally separate skills. Yeah.
And when combined, create great drummers.
Yeah, exactly. You should combine them. You should probably combine them.
Yeah, you should combine them.
But
yeah,
you wouldn't have to. No, you could definitely. I believe that there's someone on the planet that could come in here. They cannot play a basic rock beat, but they could like school me in theory.
Yeah,
that's definitely a person.
You could quiz them, and then they could get everything right.
Yeah. Well, this could be any industry. Like, there's one last example. You could have someone who knows an unbelievable amount about like rocket science, but they don't know how to fly a rocket. Like, they've never done that part.
Yeah.
But like all of the mechanisms of propulsion and all the weird science that makes it work, they could be an expert on all of that. But it doesn't mean that they've ever actually even touched a rocket. They just know how all of this works. Like that could happen for drums. Weird, but that could happen.
Well, that'll do it for Q&A.
All right.
Again, if you have questions for the podcast, please comment down below on YouTube, Instagram, on the InstaChops, Twitter, members area of orlandodrummer.com, or an email to chris@orlandodrummer.com, and I will leave it to you to close out the podcast.
Cool. So we mentioned earlier in this podcast, we went and saw, me and Kelly went and saw Alanis Morissette. Yeah. I actually bought those tickets a year and a half ago, and then it got canceled and then rescheduled. So now, we went down there to see them at this like Tampa amphitheater place. That was a weird venue. Weird.
Is it the Ford Amphitheater, or is it different?
No, it was like Midwestern Credit Union Amphitheater.
A bank owns an entertainment venue.
Cool. Yeah, the name was so weak. It was a weird venue. So Florida. Just like the people, the vibe there was like, it was so Tampa. It was hilarious.
It used to be the Ford Amphitheater, and I've been there before.
Okay, it's huge.
Yeah, I saw Rush there.
Yeah.
So, but Alanis Morissette, that had to be cool. Tell us about that.
It was cool. It was really cool. Played Jagged Little Pill, that album. And I guess that would be my closing message for this. If you don't know that album, there's a lot of young people that listen to this who might have been like a baby when that came out, or maybe you were born after that album came out. It was what, late 90s, super early 2000s?
I'm too young. You can't.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh man. Anyway, if you want to like hear it and it's weird for me because like if someone says name my favorite artists or albums, like I don't say Alanis Morissette, but it is not difficult to appreciate like what a masterpiece that album is. And this was that album tour. It's called Jagged Little Pill was the name of that album. But it's weird, man. It's one of those albums where Kelly has it on vinyl and she'll play it sometimes. And it, like, even if you couldn't name one of the songs that was on it, if you grew up in the 90s, like, you will somehow know every song. You're like, how do I just, like, it's just unbelievable, like, how much that album, like, permeated culture back then. Because it's not like I ever owned that album growing up, but she'll play it through, and I'm like, I know, like, most of these songs. Like, almost the whole album, just because of how frequently it was played, like, in my childhood. But anyway, it was really cool getting to see that band do, like, a reunion. The drummer was awesome. I don't know who he is, but
let's look it up.
That'd be interesting to find out who he was. Played a Gretsch. But it sounded good. The sound was amazing. But they played the album just note for note. It was awesome. Really, really well done. So, and that tour is actually, it just started. This was like the second show. So anyway, if you're anywhere near 30, you probably want to see the Alanis Morissette show. It was sick. You found the drummer?
It's Taylor Hawkins.
No, this wasn't Taylor Hawkins.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I Googled
This guy was
Alanis Morissette touring drummer, and it just shows up with Taylor Hawkins. Years active from 1994 to present.
Whoa. Okay, so he's not on this tour. At least the guy that I saw was like played a Gretsch, and he was probably like 60 or older. He's a little bit older, but wow, that's crazy. Taylor Hawkins played for her. That's wild. It's a great rock album. It definitely like very just 90s indie rock. But yeah, it was absolutely sick. Anyway. Album recommendation. That's how we're closing out. Go listen to Jagged Little Pill. There's definitely some masterpiece level hits on there, man. Just awesome. And that's all we got for you in episode 28. Thank you guys for tuning in. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. We will catch you guys next week. Thank you, Chris.
Peace.
Later.